The screen went black moments after I hit upload. Not the video, my life. I'd never thought about what dying would feel like, but I didn't expect it to be so digital. Like someone had simply pulled my plug. Turns out drowning in vodka and sleeping pills will do that to you. But that wasn't the end of my story. It was just a forced reboot. Just hit upload already, I muttered to myself, finger hovering over the button as if it might burn me. My room was dark except for the harsh blue light of my monitor, empty coffee cups and energy drink cans scattered across my desk like casualties of a creative war. This was my 100th video, a milestone that should have meant something. After 3 years of pouring my soul into content that barely registered in the vast ocean of YouTube, I'd decided to go all in. No more makeup tutorials copied from bigger creators. No more safe gaming content. This was the real me. A 20-minute personal story about how I, Maya Chen, had overcome crippling social anxiety to speak in front of my entire university. I took a deep breath and clicked. Video hash 100 was live. Please, I whispered to whatever digital gods might be listening, please let this be the one. 3 years, 842 subscribers, and 99 videos of mediocrity. Numbers that haunted me worse than any ghost. My channel, Maya's World, was less a world and more a forgotten asteroid drifting in the YouTube cosmos. I was 26 years old with a fine arts degree gathering dust, working part-time at a coffee shop to support what my parents called that internet hobby. But it wasn't a hobby, not to me. Since I was 8, clutching my dad's camcorder and directing my stuffed animals in elaborate dramas, I knew this was what I wanted to do. Create stories, connect with people, matter. My phone buzzed. A text from Priya, my roommate. Did you post it? I'm dying to watch. I texted back, just now I'm terrified. Don't refresh for at least an hour. You promised. I had promised. Last video, I'd driven myself crazy refreshing every 30 seconds, watching the dismal view count tick up by ones and twos. I won't, I typed, already clicking refresh on my browser. 3 views. 1 like. I sighed and checked the time. 9:17 p.m. on a Thursday. Not ideal for the algorithm, but I couldn't wait another second or I'd lose my nerve. At 9:43, I had 27 views. Not terrible. Then I saw it. The first comment. King content. Imagine thinking anyone cares about your anxiety, lol. Budget editing too. Maybe try TikTok where standards are lower. My stomach clenched. King content. He'd shown up about 6 months ago, leaving similar comments on every video. I'd blocked him twice, but he kept making new accounts. Another refresh, another comment. Truth Teller 92. Surprised you can talk about anxiety when your whole existence is begging for attention. Also, your voice is annoying AF. I knew I shouldn't keep reading, but it was like picking at a scab. Algorithm Master. Content like this is why YouTube needs better quality control. Hard pass. By midnight, I had 63 views, 17 likes, and 32 comments. The ratio said everything. I scrolled through them all, each one worse than the last. It wasn't just criticism, this was targeted cruelty. My phone rang. Priya. I thought you weren't going to refresh, she said without preamble. I lied. My voice sounded hollow. It's bad, Priya, really bad. Let me guess, the usual trolls. And then some. I don't get it. I'm nobody. Why do they hate me so much? Priya sighed. Because you're putting yourself out there, and that triggers insecure people. Want me to come home? I can leave the party. No, have fun. I'm just going to shut off my phone and go to bed. Promise? Promise. I ended the call and immediately refreshed the page again. The view count had jumped to 108. For a second, my heart lifted. Then I saw why. The video had been shared in a forum called Cringe Content Creators. I clicked through and found a thread dedicated to tearing me apart, complete with screenshots of my most awkward moments. My eyes burned with exhaustion and humiliation as I read comments from strangers discussing me like a lab specimen. My voice, my appearance, my mannerisms, nothing was spared. Why am I not surprised? I whispered to my empty room. This wasn't the first time, but something about this felt worse. I'd finally shared something real, something that had taken courage, and They'd made it into a joke. I closed my laptop and crawled into bed, but sleep didn't come. Around 3 a.m., I got back up and checked again. The dislike bar was longer than I'd ever seen it. The comments had multiplied like a virus. I navigated to my ViewTube Studio dashboard and checked the analytics. Average view duration, 127. On a 20-minute video. People weren't even watching. They were just showing up to hate. By morning, things had somehow gotten worse. The video had been mass-reported and was now flagged for review. A yellow demonetization icon glared at me, though that hardly mattered. I'd never qualified for the partner program anyway. Priya found me at the kitchen table, staring blankly at my laptop. "Maya, honey, have you been up all night?" I looked up at her, vision blurry. "They got my video flagged. It's under review." She sat beside me, her clubbing outfit from the night before rumpled, mascara slightly smudged. "That's messed up. What for?" "Harassment and bullying, ironically." I turned the screen toward her. I checked the accounts that reported me. 3 of them work for ViewTube. "Wait, what? How do you know?" "LinkedIn. This one, Algorithm Master. His profile says he's a content moderator. This one links to his Twitter, where he clearly states he works in ViewTube's trust and safety team." Priya's eyes widened. "That can't be allowed." "Apparently it is." I closed the laptop with a soft click. "I'm done, Priya. 3 years of my life wasted on this." "Don't say that. You're just having a rough patch." I laughed, but it came out as more of a sob. "A 3-year rough patch? At what point do I admit I'm just not good enough?" "That's not true. Your content is good. It's just hard to break through." I pushed back from the table. "I need to shower. I have a shift at 10. The coffee shop was busy, which should have been a blessing. Less time to think about my ViewTube disaster. But every customer with their phone out, every snippet of conversation about viral videos, was like salt in the wound. During my break, I checked my account. The video had been restored, but the damage was done. The algorithm had buried it, and the comment section remained a toxic swamp. That's when I spotted something odd. Many of the worst comments came from accounts that interacted with each other regularly. I started digging, following their activity across the platform. King Content had collaborated with several mid-tier creators. Truthteller92 had an Instagram that followed many of the same people I had gone to high school with. Algorithm Master openly commented on ViewTube policy in ways that suggested insider knowledge. This wasn't random trolling. This felt coordinated. I spent the next 3 days investigating, using every spare moment to trace connections. King Content was almost certainly Jake Reynolds, a creator with 300K subscribers who made similar content to mine but with higher production values. We'd met at a creator event once, and he'd been dismissive when I tried to network. Truthteller92's Instagram had photos with location tags from my hometown and old high school. With some digging, I realized it was Vanessa Williams, a former classmate who'd always resented me for getting the lead in our senior year play. Most disturbing was Algorithm Master. His LinkedIn profile revealed he was Devin Clark, a mid-level ViewTube employee who, according to some Reddit threads from disgruntled creators, took kickbacks to promote certain channels and suppress others. I didn't want to believe it, but the evidence was mounting. This wasn't bad luck. I was being deliberately sabotaged. I made a decision. If my ViewTube career was over, I would go out with the truth. I spent all night creating a video meticulously documenting what I'd found, connecting the dots between my harassers, and suggesting that ViewTube's own employees were complicit in creator harassment. When I posted the truth about creator suppression on ViewTube, I knew I was breaking unwritten rules. But I had nothing left to lose. For 6 glorious hours, the video gained traction. Real comments from real viewers expressed shock and support. The view count climbed faster than anything I'd ever posted. Then suddenly, mid-refresh, the video was gone. Not deleted, there wasn't even a record of it in my studio. It was as if it had never existed. Minutes later, I received the email. Your ViewTube account has been permanently suspended for multiple violations of our community guidelines, including harassment, spreading misinformation, and attempts to manipulate the platform. This decision cannot be appealed. I stared at my phone in disbelief. 3 years of content, gone. My small community of genuine subscribers who'd stuck with me. Gone. Then the messages started coming. First in my video comments that I could no longer access, then my Instagram, then my personal email somehow. You should have kept your mouth shut. Nobody crosses YouTube and survives online. Good luck getting work in digital media ever again. The last one was from King Content's official Twitter. Some people just aren't cut out for this industry. Know when to quit. I showed the messages to Priya, who urged me to go to the police. But what would I tell them? That mean people on the internet had said mean things? That I suspected a conspiracy but had lost my evidence when my account was deleted? Instead, I drank. One bottle of wine turned into two. I found myself scrolling through successful creators' feeds, trying to understand what they had that I didn't. Many made objectively worse content than mine, but they played the game better. They knew people. They were protected. The world was spinning by the time I found the bottle of sleeping pills in our medicine cabinet, left over from when Priya had her wisdom teeth removed. The label warned not to mix with alcohol. I stared at that warning for a long time. I didn't plan to take them all, just enough to sleep for a while, to stop feeling this gnawing emptiness. But one pill turned to two, turned to a handful. The wine made it hard to count. As I lay on my bed, the room swimming around me, I had one last coherent thought. I wish I could start over, knowing what I know now. Then darkness. A blaring alarm jolted me awake. My head pounded, but not with the hangover I expected. This was the familiar ache of too little sleep. I fumbled for my phone to silence the alarm. 7:30 a.m. Something was wrong. My room looked different. The furniture was arranged as it had been in my old apartment before I moved in with Priya. My ancient IKEA desk instead of the sleek one I'd saved up for. The chipped blue mug that had broken years ago sat on my nightstand. I sat up, disoriented, wondering if I was dreaming or if this was some strange after effect of the pills and alcohol. Then I saw the date on my phone, April 17th, 2022, 3 years earlier. What the hell? I whispered, my voice cracking with sleep and shock. I scrambled out of bed, nearly tripping over a power cord. My old laptop, the one that had died right before I upgraded, sat charging on the floor. I opened it with trembling hands and navigated to my ViewTube channel. Maya's World stared back at me, but instead of 100 videos, there were only 7. My earliest attempts, awkward and unsure. 58 subscribers. This couldn't be real. I grabbed my phone again, scrolling through my messages, my photos. Everything ended in April 2022. No trace of the next 3 years. Either I was having the most elaborate hallucination ever, or I had somehow gone back in time. I needed to test this theory. If this was really 2022, then I knew things that hadn't happened yet. The new iPhone wouldn't be announced for months. That indie musician Priya loved wouldn't release her breakthrough album until August. The massive YouTube data breach wouldn't occur until November. I opened my browser and checked the latest news. Everything aligned with April 2022. No mention of events I remembered from later that year. Okay, I said to myself, pacing the small room. Okay, this is happening. My next thought hit me like a physical blow. I could do things differently this time. I sat down heavily on my bed. If this was real, and every evidence suggested it was, I had been given a second chance. 3 years to remake my path with the knowledge of what had gone wrong the first time. The possibilities made me dizzy. I could avoid the specific mistakes I'd made with my content. I could invest in the stocks I knew would soar. I could expose Jake, Vanessa, and Devin before they could hurt me. But most importantly, I could rebuild my approach to content creation from the ground up, knowing what I now knew about the inner workings of YouTube and its flaws. First, though, I needed stability. In my first run through these years, I'd gone all in on YouTube, working minimum wage jobs to scrape by while pouring every spare hour into content that never paid off. This time would be different. I pulled up job listings in the tech sector. With my knowledge of digital platforms from years of studying the algorithm, I was qualified for more than I'd ever given myself credit for. I applied for a customer success position at a small software company called Next Tech, emphasizing my communication skills and platform knowledge. 2 weeks later, I had the job. The salary wasn't amazing, but it was consistent and included benefits. something I hadn't had in years. More importantly, it gave me access to a world I'd only observed from the outside, the actual business of tech platforms. While my days were spent helping customers navigate Nextech software, my evenings were dedicated to strategic planning. I created a detailed outline of everything I remembered about YouTube's algorithm changes over the next 3 years, the rise and fall of popular content formats, and the specific tactics that had worked for successful creators. I also started investing small amounts in tech companies I knew would grow. Nothing that would raise suspicions, just enough to build a safety net. 3 months into my new timeline, I met Priya. In my original life, we'd met through a mutual friend a year later, but I engineered an accidental meeting at a coffee shop she frequented. Our friendship blossomed just as naturally as it had the first time, and when her roommate situation fell apart 2 months later, I suggested we'd live together. Having Priya back in my life felt like recovering a piece of myself. On our moving day, as we collapsed onto our couch surrounded by boxes, she asked the question I'd been expecting. "So why don't you post on YouTube anymore? Your old videos are actually pretty good." I took a sip of my beer, considering my answer carefully. I'm taking a step back to rethink my approach. The platform's broken in ways most people don't see yet. How so? I told her a simplified version of what I knew: how the algorithm favored certain creators regardless of content quality, how moderation was inconsistent and often biased, how the whole ecosystem was designed to create dependency and insecurity in creators. Priya listened intently, her psychology background making her the perfect audience. "That's fascinating and terrifying. So, what's your plan?" "I'm going to create content again, but differently, under a new channel with everything I've learned. And I'm going to document all the platform's flaws along the way." "For what purpose?" I smiled, the first genuine smile I could remember in ages. "You'll see." I launched my new channel, Digital Truth, the following week. Instead of trying to copy what was popular, I created content analyzing digital platforms themselves: how they worked, what was broken, what could be better. I applied everything I'd learned from my failures: better thumbnails, strategic keywords, consistent posting schedules, and most importantly, authentic value. The growth was slow but steady. By month 3, I had 1,000 subscribers, more than I'd achieved in 2 years the first time around. By month 6, 5,000. My day job at Nextech proved unexpectedly valuable. I befriended developers who taught me basic coding, helping me understand the technical underpinnings of digital platforms. I sat in on product meetings where user experience was discussed, absorbing the language and logic of platform design. One Thursday evening, as I was editing my latest video on algorithmic bias, I received a message through my channel: "Your content on YouTube's moderation inconsistencies resonated with me. I work there, and things are worse than you know. Would you be interested in talking?" The sender used a pseudonym, Platform Insider, but something about their specific knowledge felt authentic. After taking precautions, creating a new secure email, suggesting an anonymous call, I connected with them. "I should tell you up front that I'm risking my job by talking to you," a male voice said when our call connected. "But someone needs to expose what's happening." "I appreciate the risk you're taking," I replied. "Can you tell me why you reached out to me specifically?" "Your analysis is spot on. Most critics don't understand the technical aspects, but you clearly do." "How?" I hesitated. "Let's just say I've been studying the platform very carefully." Over the next hour, Alex, he eventually shared his first name, confirmed much of what I already knew and added details I couldn't have discovered on my own. YouTube had an unofficial preferred creators list whose content was algorithmically favored. There was a separate moderation queue for big creators versus small ones. And yes, some employees accepted consulting fees to boost certain channels. "The corruption isn't company-wide," Alex clarified. "Most employees have no idea. It's a small group with outsized influence." "Including Devin Clark?" I asked, testing. Alex paused. "How do you know that name?" "Research. He's appeared in some creators' complaints." "Well, your research is good. He's one of the worst offenders. Started as a normal content moderator, but now has his fingers in all sorts of policy decisions. Takes payments through a shell consulting company." We talked for nearly 3 hours. By the end, Alex had agreed to provide me with documentation of the worst abuses. careful to remove anything that could identify him as the source. "Why are you really doing this?" he asked before we disconnected. "Most small creators just want to grow their own channels, not fix the system." I thought about my answer carefully, because I've seen what happens when platforms prioritize engagement over integrity. Everyone loses eventually. 2 weeks later, we met in person at a quiet coffee shop. Alex was surprisingly normal looking. I'd half expected someone furtive and nervous, but he was relaxed, confident, with kind eyes and an easy smile. He slid a USB drive across the table. "There's enough here to make some waves if it got out," he said. "But be careful, YouTube's legal team doesn't mess around." I pocketed the drive. "I'll be careful. Why are you still working there if it's so corrupt?" Someone needs to be on the inside pushing back, and honestly, the platform itself isn't evil, it's just lost its way. I nodded, understanding completely. "Thanks for trusting me with this." He smiled. "Thanks for doing something with it." What I didn't tell Alex was that I wasn't planning to just expose YouTube's flaws. I was documenting them to ensure the platform I was secretly designing would avoid them altogether. Every night after work, I sketched out plans for Auteur, a video platform that would prioritize creator sustainability over viral exploitation, with transparent algorithms and fair monetization from the start. I taught myself enough coding to create rough prototypes, using Alex's insights to design better systems. Our meetings became more frequent and inevitably personal. 6 months after our first contact, Alex and I were no longer just co-conspirators, we were dating. I hadn't planned this. In my previous life, I'd been too consumed by YouTube failures to pursue any real relationship. But Alex understood me in ways I hadn't thought possible. The night I finally shared my auteur designs with him, he stared at my laptop in silence for so long, I grew nervous. "Is it that bad?" I asked. He looked up, eyes wide. "Bad? Maya, this is brilliant. You've addressed every major flaw in not just YouTube, but every major platform. How long have you been working on this?" "A long time," I answered truthfully. "The question is, can it actually be built?" "Yes," he said without hesitation. "It would be challenging, but everything here is technically feasible." He scrolled through my mock-ups. The transparent creator metrics, the anti-harassment systems, the tiered monetization that supports even small creators, this could change everything. "Then let's build it," I said, the words coming out before I could second-guess myself. "What? Maya, this would take millions in startup costs, a full development team." "I know. That's why we're going to need investors." Alex looked at me like I'd suggested flying to the moon. "You're serious?" "Dead serious. I've been planning this for longer than you know." 2 weeks later, I quit my job at Nextech. With my strategic investments having paid off better than I'd hoped, and a solid business plan in place, I was ready to go all in on Auteur. Alex, after much consideration, gave YouTube his notice as well. "If we're really doing this," he said, "I want to be all in." We spent 2 months refining the concept, creating pitch decks, and reaching out to potential investors. Most didn't return our calls. Those who did were skeptical. Why would users abandon YouTube for an unproven platform? Because creators will lead them, I explained to one particularly dismissive venture capitalist. Platforms need creators more than creators need any specific platform. Give creators a better ecosystem, and the audience will follow. After 12 rejections, we finally secured a meeting with Horizon Ventures, a firm known for backing platform challengers. As we set up our presentation, I spotted a familiar face among the partners, Sanjay Mehta, who in my previous timeline had invested in several creator economy startups that thrived. "Before you begin," Sanjay said once introductions were complete, "I have one question. What makes you think you can compete with YouTube? They've crushed every competitor for a decade." I met his gaze directly. "Because they've forgotten what made them successful in the first place. The creators. We haven't." For the next hour, we walked through our vision for Auteur, not just as a ViewTube alternative, but as a fundamentally different approach to content platforms. I used my knowledge of future trends to predict shifts in creator needs and audience expectations that hadn't fully materialized yet. When we finished, there was a long silence. Then Sanjay smiled. "Most platform pitches we see are just ViewTube with a gimmick. This is the first truly innovative approach I've seen in years. He looked at his partners, who nodded in agreement. We're interested. Let's discuss terms. As we left the meeting with a preliminary funding agreement, Alex grabbed me in a fierce hug. How did you know exactly what to say to them? I smiled into his shoulder. Let's just say I've had a lot of time to think about this. With $2 million in seed funding secured, we rented a small office space and began building our team. I insisted on diversity in hiring, knowing from my previous life how homogeneous thinking leads to platform blind spots. We hired Zoe, a brilliant UX designer who'd been vocal about ViewTube's accessibility issues, Marcus, a back-end developer who'd worked at 3 different social platforms, and Tanya, a content policy expert who'd written her thesis on digital harassment. Each brought perspectives we desperately needed. 6 months of intensive development followed. Days blurred into nights as we built Auteur from the ground up. There were technical challenges, team conflicts, and moments of doubt, but the prototype gradually took shape. Then came our first betrayal. Marcus disappeared for a weekend, and on Monday, we discovered he'd copied portions of our code. A quick investigation revealed he'd been hired by ViewTube 2 weeks earlier. They know what we're building, Alex said grimly as we assessed the damage. We need to accelerate our timeline. No, I countered, surprising him. We need to let them think they know what we're building, while actually creating something better. We pivoted, using the breach as an opportunity to rethink some of our core features. What ViewTube had stolen was our original plan. What we built next was superior in every way. 3 weeks before our scheduled beta launch, I received a message from a name I'd hoped never to see again. King Content. Heard you're building a ViewTube killer. Interested in bringing on creators early? I have 450K subs now. Jake Reynolds. In this timeline, I'd never interacted with him, but he'd continued his rise while I worked behind the scenes. His subscriber count was higher than before, likely benefiting from the very insider favoritism we were fighting against. I showed Alex the message. What do you think? Is he trying to spy on us? Alex considered it. Possibly, or he smells something successful and wants early access. Either way, I wouldn't trust him. Neither would I. I drafted a polite but non-committal response, promising to keep him updated on our launch. No special access, no insider information. 1 week later, we released the Auteur beta to a carefully selected group of 50 mid-sized creators who'd expressed frustration with ViewTube's systems. The feedback was immediate and enthusiastic. The analytics actually make sense. Wait, I can see exactly why my video was recommended to people. The monetization on my first video was more than my last 3 ViewTube videos combined. We made adjustments based on their input, fixed bugs, and prepared for wider release. 2 days before our public launch, Alex burst into my office, face pale. ViewTube just announced a creator-focused update. They're implementing transparent analytics and improved monetization for smaller creators, almost exactly like our features. I felt a momentary panic, then a strange calm. They're reacting to us. That means they're worried. But if they steal our best features before we even launch, they can copy features, Alex, but they can't copy culture. Their entire ecosystem is built on engagement at all costs. They can't fundamentally change that without breaking their business model. I was right. ViewTube's hastily implemented creator transparency features were shallow imitations of what we'd built, clearly bolted onto their existing systems rather than integrated from the ground up. Creators saw through it immediately. On March 15th, 2023, we launched Auteur to the public. Our server costs had been our biggest concern. If too many users came too quickly, could we handle the load? The answer, it turned out, was just barely. 20,000 creators signed up in the first day, bringing their most dedicated viewers with them. Our system strained but held. By the end of the first week, we had crossed 100,000 users, small by ViewTube standards, but growing faster than any platform launch in recent history. TechCrunch ran an article titled Auteur, the creator revolution ViewTube feared. Wired followed with Inside Auteur, how 2 ex-tech workers built a better video platform. ViewTube noticed. Their PR team released statements dismissing us as niche, while internally, according to Alex's contacts, they were scrambling to respond. Then came the first major scandal that worked in our favor. A ViewTube investigation revealed that several employees, including senior moderator Devin Clark, had been accepting payments to promote certain creators and suppress others. The story broke in the Wall Street Journal and spread like wildfire. I couldn't have planned it better if I'd tried. Creators and viewers alike were outraged, and many turned to Auteur as the ethical alternative. Our user base doubled in a week. As we scaled to meet demand, I received another message from King Content. Your platform is gaining traction. Let's talk partnership. My audience would be a huge boost for you. This time, I agreed to a meeting. Jake Reynolds was exactly as I remembered him. Handsome in a generic way, with the practiced charm of someone used to getting what he wants. He didn't recognize me as the small creator he'd once tormented, which wasn't surprising. In this timeline, our paths had never directly crossed. I'm impressed with what you've built, he said, leaning back in his chair in our conference room. ViewTube has gotten complacent. Creators like me need alternatives. What specifically appeals to you about Auteur? I asked, keeping my tone professionally curious. The transparency, the better revenue share, and frankly, the timing. ViewTube's reputation is tanking right now. I nodded. Those are all features we're proud of, but I'm curious, Jake. What kind of partnership are you envisioning? He outlined a proposal where he'd receive special placement, advanced features, and a higher revenue percentage than other creators. Essentially, the same preferential treatment he'd enjoyed at ViewTube. That's an interesting proposal, I said when he finished, but it conflicts with our core philosophy. Auteur doesn't offer special treatment to any creator, regardless of size. Everyone plays by the same transparent rules. His smile tightened. That's idealistic, but not how the real world works. Big creators bring big audiences. We deserve special consideration. On ViewTube, perhaps, not here. I stood up, extending my hand. You're welcome to join Auteur under the same terms as everyone else. If you do, I think you'll find the standard offering better than what you're getting now anyway. He didn't take my hand. You're making a mistake. Without creators like me, your platform stays niche. We'll take that chance, I replied, still smiling. Thanks for your interest. After he left, Alex emerged from the adjacent room where he'd been listening. That was impressive. Most platform founders would have jumped at getting someone his size. I shrugged. We're not building that kind of platform. The moment we start giving special treatment is the moment we become everything we're fighting against. Jake wasn't the only one from my past to resurface. A week later, I noticed an application for our content policy team from none other than Vanessa Williams, Truth Teller 92 herself. Her resume was actually impressive. She'd worked in community management for several platforms since graduating. I approved her application for an interview, curious to see how she'd changed or hadn't. When she walked into our office, I recognized her immediately, though she'd cut her long brown hair into a fashionable bob. Like Jake, she showed no sign of recognizing me. The interview went well. She was articulate about content moderation challenges and seemed genuinely passionate about building healthier online spaces. It wasn't until the end that I decided to test her. We found something concerning in our background check, I said, though we hadn't run one yet. You've operated anonymous accounts used to harass smaller creators. Care to comment? Her face went white, then red. That was years ago. I was in a bad place personally. I've grown since then. I appreciate your honesty, I said, surprising her. We all have regrets online. The question is whether we learn from them. She nodded earnestly. I have. It's actually why I'm so passionate about better moderation now. I've been on the wrong side. I studied her for a moment. In my previous timeline, she'd been one of my most persistent tormentors, but people could change. I certainly had. We'll be in touch, I said, ending the interview. Later, Alex asked what I planned to do about her. I'm going to offer her the job, I said, with a 6-month probation period and full transparency about her past behavior. If she's truly changed, she'll be an asset. If not, we'll know quickly. You're more forgiving than I would be, he noted. It's not about forgiveness. It's about building the platform we promised, one that believes in accountability but also growth. As Auteur continued to grow, ViewTube's response escalated from dismissive to aggressive. They launched a creator loyalty program with financial incentives to remain exclusive to their platform. They updated their terms of service to claim ownership of analytics previously provided to creators. They even approached several of our early investors, suggesting Auteur was infringing on their intellectual property, a baseless claim designed to scare off support. None of it worked. Our user base crossed 1 million by the end of our second month, with growth accelerating rather than slowing. When a popular tech reviewer posted a video titled "Why I'm Moving to Auteur," it gained 7 million views on ViewTube itself and sparked a new wave of creator migrations. Then came the offer I'd been expecting. ViewTube wanted to buy us. The email arrived from their head of strategy, requesting a confidential meeting to discuss potential synergies. Alex was hesitant when I showed him. We should at least hear them out, right? If the price is high enough, our investors will expect us to consider it. We'll meet them, I agreed, but we're not selling. The meeting took place at a private dining room in an upscale restaurant. 3 ViewTube executives attended, including their chief business officer, a woman named Patricia Chen, who had been quoted defending their moderation practices in that Wall Street Journal expose. "We've been watching Auteur with interest," Patricia began after pleasantries were exchanged. "What you've built in such a short time is impressive." I smiled politely. "Thank you, we're proud of it." "Let's not waste time," said the man beside her, introducing himself as ViewTube's VP of Acquisitions. "We'd like to bring Auteur into the ViewTube family. $200 million plus performance incentives." Alex choked slightly on his water beside me. The number was staggering for a platform our size. "That's a generous offer," I said, keeping my voice steady. "But I'm curious. Why acquire us rather than just implementing our features yourselves? You've already started to—" Patricia's smile tightened. "Integration would be more efficient than competition. Your technology combined with our scale, it's a win-win." "And what happens to Auteur's policies? The transparency? The creator-first monetization?" "We'd incorporate the best elements into the ViewTube ecosystem," she replied carefully. "Which means discarding the rest," I translated. The third executive, who had remained silent until now, leaned forward. "Miss Chen, let's be direct. The creator economy isn't big enough for fractured audiences. Consolidation is inevitable. You can join us now with a very favorable deal or compete until one of us fails." I pulled out my phone and placed it on the table. "Before we continue, I should mention I'm recording this conversation. For transparency, one of Auteur's core values." The atmosphere in the room changed instantly. "That's inappropriate," Patricia snapped. "This is a confidential business discussion." "Is it, or is it a threat?" I kept my phone where it was. "Because it sounded like you were suggesting that if we don't sell, ViewTube will take active measures against us." "That's not what he said," the VP of Acquisitions cut in quickly. "We're simply acknowledging market realities." I nodded, retrieving my phone. Market realities? Like how ViewTube employees accepted payments to promote certain creators while suppressing others? Or how content moderation applies differently depending on a creator's size? Those kinds of realities? Patricia's face hardened. "I think we're done here." "I agree," I stood up. "For the record, Auteur isn't for sale. Not to ViewTube, not to anyone. But thanks for the meeting. It was illuminating." As we walked out, Alex whispered, "Did you really record that?" "No," I admitted once we were outside. "But they'll be worrying about it for weeks." He laughed and then grew serious. "They're going to come after us hard now." "I'm counting on it," I replied. "They're most dangerous when they're desperate." The attack began the very next day. ViewTube announced a creator freedom initiative that mimicked several more of our features. Tech blogs that relied on ViewTube advertising suddenly published critical pieces about Auteur's untested moderation systems. Then my personal information, home address, phone number, even financial details, was leaked online in a targeted doxing attack. "This is getting scary," Alex said as we implemented additional security measures for our team. "Maybe we should consider legal action." "Not yet," I replied. "We need more evidence of who's behind it." That evidence came from an unexpected source, Vanessa Williams, who had indeed joined our content policy team and was proving to be exceptionally valuable. "I found something you should see," she said one evening, placing a laptop in front of me. "These coordinated attacks against you personally are coming from a Discord server run by this user." She pointed to a username, KingContent_official. "Jake Reynolds," I murmured. Vanessa looked surprised. "You know him?" "We've met," I said simply. "Can you document all of this?" Over the next week, Vanessa compiled a comprehensive report showing not just Jake's involvement in the harassment campaign, but also direct connections to several ViewTube employees, including Devin Clark, who, despite the earlier scandal, had simply been moved to a different department rather than fired. Rather than rushing to confront them or taking legal action, I made a different call. I shared Vanessa's report with 3 trusted tech journalists, providing supporting evidence but asking them to conduct their own investigations before publishing. 2 weeks later, The Verge broke the story. ViewTube creators and employees orchestrated harassment campaign against competitor, documents show. The fallout was immediate and severe. ViewTube stock dropped 12% in a single day. Their PR team issued denials, but 2 days later, both Jake Reynolds and Devin Clark were publicly cut ties with, along with several other employees. What happened next exceeded even my expectations. Hundreds of creators, including several major names who had been on the fence, announced they were moving to Auteur. Our daily sign-up rate increased tenfold. #DeleteViewTube trended on Twitter for 3 straight days. ViewTube attempted damage control by announcing a Creator Bill of Rights and a complete overhaul of their moderation systems. Too little, too late. The momentum had decisively shifted. 6 months after launch, Auteur reached 10 million active users. A year in, 30 million. We were still dwarfed by ViewTube's billions, but we'd captured the most engaged segment of the creator economy, the professionals who built their livelihoods on video content. We raised a Series B funding round at a $1.5 billion valuation, giving us the resources to scale infrastructure and hire the best talent. Alex led our engineering team, while I focused on strategic growth and creator relationships. Throughout it all, I maintained our founding principles: transparency in algorithms, equitable monetization, and zero tolerance for harassment. If a creator violated our community guidelines, regardless of their size or influence, they faced the same consequences as anyone else. It was during this period that I received a final message from Jake Reynolds. "I know I've been blacklisted from Auteur, but I'm asking for a meeting. 1 hour, anywhere public. I want to apologize in person." I debated ignoring it, but curiosity won out. We met at a busy coffee shop with security nearby just in case. Jake looked different, humbled somehow. The polished exterior had faded. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," he began. "I don't expect forgiveness, but I wanted to say this directly. I'm sorry for my behavior. Toward you, toward Auteur, and toward the smaller creators I've hurt over the years." I studied him carefully. What prompted this change of heart? He sighed. "Consequences, finally. After the Verge article, everything collapsed. ViewTube dropped me, sponsors fled, and my audience halved overnight. I deserved it." He paused. It forced me to confront who I'd become. And who was that? Someone willing to tear others down to elevate myself. Someone who forgot that views and subscribers aren't the point. Connecting with an audience is... He looked up. "I've started over on a smaller platform. 2,000 subscribers. Making content I actually care about." I nodded slowly. "That sounds healthier." "It is." He hesitated. "I don't expect you to lift the ban, but I wanted you to know that what you've built, it's changing the industry for the better. I was on the wrong side." As he stood to leave, I made a decision. "Jake," I called after him, "the ban isn't permanent. 6 months of consistent positive behavior on other platforms and you can appeal. Everyone deserves a second chance if they've genuinely changed." His expression of surprise and gratitude stayed with me for days afterward. 2 years after launching Auteur, we reached a turning point. A governmental investigation into digital platform practices, sparked partly by the ViewTube scandals we'd helped expose, resulted in new regulations requiring algorithm transparency and creator protections. Regulations that Auteur already exceeded, but that forced ViewTube to make painful changes to their core systems. Their user growth stalled, then began to decline for the first time in their history. Meanwhile, Auteur crossed 50 million users and continued climbing. I found myself in a position I could never have imagined in my previous life. A respected CEO featured in Fortune's 40 Under 40 Inches and invited to speak at industry conferences about the future of digital platforms. The girl who had once been bullied off YouTube was now helping reshape the entire creator economy. In a move that felt surreal, YouTube's CEO reached out to discuss potential collaboration, not acquisition, but actual partnership on cross-platform creator initiatives. The conversation was civil, productive even. They were finally acknowledging the flaws in their approach and genuinely seeking to improve. As Auteur's success grew, I began thinking more about the true purpose of what we'd built. It wasn't just about displacing YouTube or personal vindication. It was about creating a healthier digital ecosystem for everyone. That realization led to our most ambitious initiative yet, the Creator Sustainability Alliance, a nonprofit organization funded by Auteur but operated independently. The alliance provided resources, training, and mental health support to creators across all platforms, advocating for better practices industry-wide. The night before the alliance's launch event, I found myself alone in my office, reflecting on the journey. On my desk sat a framed screenshot, my very first YouTube video from my original timeline, preserved through a random backup I discovered. Only I knew its significance. Alex knocked on my door, breaking my reverie. In the 3 years since we'd launched Auteur, our relationship had deepened beyond my expectations. He'd become not just my partner in business, but in life. "Ready for tomorrow?" he asked, coming to stand behind me. "As ready as I'll ever be," I replied, leaning back against him. "Did you ever imagine we'd get here?" "Honestly, no. But you always seemed to believe it was possible." He put his hands on my shoulders. "Sometimes I think you can see the future." I laughed softly. "Just educated guesses." The Alliance launch was a triumph, covered by major media outlets and attended by creators from every platform, including YouTube. The industry was finally acknowledging that creator well-being and platform health were inseparable. In the weeks that followed, I made a decision I'd been contemplating for months. I scheduled a meeting with our board of directors and executive team. "I'm proposing a new direction for Auteur," I announced once everyone was seated. "We've built a successful platform by prioritizing creators and transparency. Now, I want to take that philosophy further." I outlined my vision, transitioning Auteur to a creator-owned cooperative model, where verified creators would collectively hold a controlling interest in the company through a specially designed governance structure. "You want to give away control of your own company?" one board member asked incredulously. "Not give away, distribute," I corrected. "Platforms should serve creators, not the other way around. This structure aligns our incentives perfectly and prevents us from ever becoming what we set out to replace." The debate was intense, with valid concerns raised about implementation and investment implications, but I'd prepared meticulously, addressing each point with detailed plans. After 3 hours, we had tentative approval to develop the proposal further. It would take time, at least a year, to implement fully, but the path was clear. That evening, as news of Auteur's potential restructuring began circulating in industry circles, I received an unexpected email. Subject: your final video from YouTube support. "Dear Ms. Chen, after reviewing your appeal and in light of our updated policies, we have reinstated your original YouTube channel, Maya's World. Your videos and subscriber history have been restored. We apologize for any inconvenience and thank you for your patience. YouTube support team." I stared at the screen in disbelief. My original channel, deleted in another timeline, never even active in this one, had somehow been restored. It made no logical sense. With trembling fingers, I navigated to the channel. There it was, all 100 videos, including the final one about my anxiety that had triggered the downward spiral in my original life. The video that had never existed in this timeline. The view count on that final video caught my eye, 1.2 million views. The comments section was filled with supportive messages, many referencing my current role at Auteur, expressing how my personal story had inspired them. It was as if the two timelines had somehow merged, Or perhaps had always been one continuous path that I simply couldn't see from my limited perspective. Whatever cosmic glitch or second chance had given me this opportunity, the message seemed clear. The journey had come full circle. The next day, I did something I hadn't planned. I sat down in my home office, set up my camera, and recorded a new video for that resurrected channel. Hi, I'm Maya Chen, I began, feeling a strange sense of deja vu. Some of you may know me from Auteur, but this is where my creator journey actually began. Today, I want to talk about failure, second chances, and the winding path that sometimes leads exactly where you need to go. I shared my story, not the impossible truth of time travel and rebirth, but the emotional truth of nearly giving up, of finding strength in starting over, of building something better, not just for myself, but for others. As I finished the recording, a notification popped up on my phone. A young creator named Sophia had requested a mentorship meeting through Auteur's creator support program. Her message read, "I'm ready to quit. 100 videos and barely any views. Please tell me it gets better." I smiled, feeling a sense of perfect symmetry. It does, I whispered to myself as I approved the meeting request. And sometimes, it gets better in ways you could never imagine. My new video on my old channel went viral overnight, creating an unexpected bridge between platforms. YouTube creators began exploring Auteur in greater numbers, while Auteur's community embraced the vulnerability I'd shown. 6 months later, as we finalized the creator cooperative model for Auteur, I met with Sophia, whose channel had grown modestly but steadily under my mentorship. "The numbers aren't exploding, but I'm building something real," she told me proudly, "and I actually enjoy creating again." "That's what matters most," I replied. "The rest will follow." As Sophia left my office, I opened my drawer and pulled out a small notebook, the one where, in this timeline, I'd first sketched my vision for Auteur during those late nights after my next tech job. On the final page, I'd written a quote that had guided me through every decision. "Success isn't about destroying what's broken, but building what's better." I'd come into this second chance thinking about revenge, about deleting accounts and watching those who hurt me suffer. But somewhere along the way, the mission had transformed into something greater. I hadn't just owned the platform, I'd reimagined it, and in doing so, I'd created something that could outlast any individual, a system that empowered rather than exploited, that connected rather than isolated. The revolution wasn't in deleting accounts. It was in creating a world where everyone had a voice worth hearing and a platform worthy of their creativity. As I closed the notebook, my phone buzzed with a text from Alex. "Board just unanimously approved the cooperative model. We did it." I smiled, thinking of the desperate young woman who had once swallowed sleeping pills in despair. If only she could have seen where her journey would lead. But perhaps, in some strange way, she had. 5 years after Auteur's launch, the digital landscape had transformed. Our creator cooperative model had become a case study at business schools, while the Creator Sustainability Alliance now supported over 1 million creators across all platforms. ViewTube, after initial resistance, had ultimately embraced many of the reforms we championed. They remained the larger platform by raw numbers, but Auteur had established itself as the professional standard for serious content creators. On the anniversary of our launch, I sat in a small studio with Priya, my oldest friend and now Auteur's chief community officer, preparing to host a live discussion about the future of digital creativity. "Ready?" she asked, adjusting my microphone. "Always," I replied. As the cameras went live and viewers from around the world tuned in, I looked directly into the lens. 5 years ago, I believed the problem with digital platforms was corruption at the top. Today, I understand it was actually design at the foundation. When systems are built to maximize engagement at all costs, even good people make harmful decisions. I paused, thinking of Jake, of Vanessa, even of Devin, all people who had been shaped by the systems they participated in. What we've built at Auteur isn't perfect. We make mistakes every day. But our foundation is different. We're designed to align the success of the platform with the success of creators and viewers. That changes everything. The discussion ranged from AI to augmented reality, from creator economics to digital well-being. Throughout it all, I kept returning to the core philosophy that had guided us from the beginning. Technology should serve humanity, not the other way around. As we wrapped up, a question came in from a viewer that caught me off guard. If you could go back and change anything about your journey, would you? I smiled, the irony of the question not lost on me. No, I answered truthfully. Every challenge, every failure, every moment of despair was necessary. They brought me here. And here is exactly where I'm meant to be. Later that evening, as Alex and I walked home through the city, he asked about my answer. Really? Not a single thing you'd change? I thought about the pills, the darkness, the lost years in my original timeline. I thought about the pain that had driven me to that point. Then I thought about all that had grown from it, not just auteur, but the person I had become. Actually, there is one thing, I said finally. What's that? I smiled, taking his hand. I would have told myself sooner that rock bottom sometimes holds the foundation for something extraordinary. As we reached our apartment, my phone pinged with a notification. Sophia, my mentee, had just uploaded her 100th video. The title made me pause. When giving up seems easier than going on. I clicked through immediately, watching as she shared her own struggles with vulnerability and grace. In the description, she'd written, "Dedicated to Maya Chen, who showed me that our lowest moments sometimes precede our greatest opportunities." The cycle continued. The lesson passed forward, the story ever evolving. I turned off my phone and joined Alex on our balcony, looking out at the city lights below. Whatever cosmic force, glitch in the matrix, or simple second chance had given me this opportunity, I had used it to build something lasting. Not because I'd owned a platform or deleted accounts, but because I'd transformed loss into creation, pain into purpose, and a personal ending into a collective beginning. That was the real rebirth.